NIO stock is going through a massive short squeeze right now at this moment. We're going to talk about price targets and also two very important policies here in China that will really impact and benefit NIO shareholders in the future. Here's a very interesting statistic. There's over 116 million shares short, NIO stock shares short, and these guys were not expecting NIO stock to rise that high. And the most important thing that you guys have to remember is that shorts are guaranteed buyers. They gotta buy the stock back. It's like borrowing money from someone. You gotta pay it back. So they have to buy the stock back, whether the stock is lower than the price that they borrowed the shares at, or it's higher, which it is right now. And during short squeezes, fundamentals, they don't matter at all. They absolutely don't matter. Economic situation in China, how the company is doing, it does not matter. All that matters right now is the fact that the bankers are calling these hedge funds and telling them, NIO stock going to the moon right now, you need to pay back the shares that you borrowed, give me my money. The shorts are in a very, very bad spot. And I think we're at a situation where they might be forced to cover, aka a short squeeze. Now, what are some short squeeze targets? And remember, short squeezes, they happen very fast in the span of a week or maybe 2 weeks. But looking at the past short squeezes that we've got, prominent one, obviously AMC, GameStop, and we also got Bed Bath & Beyond, which happened last summer. The stock went from 4.6-ish all the way up to 28. And that is a whopping 6x in return in just a short duration of time. Now, that's, mind you, from the very lowest point to the very highest point. That's 6x. Now, I don't expect NIO to 6x at all from the lowest point, but if they do 6x, if something like what happened with Bed Bath & Beyond happened with NIO stock, NIO's 52-week lows recently $7 a share. 6x that's 42. Whilst I don't expect NIO stock to get to 42, but here are some other realistic possible targets for the short squeeze that's happening right now. I want to once again remind you, this is not financial advice, but if the momentum is able to continue and shorts are indeed being squeezed and forced to buy back massive amounts of number of shares being bought back, we could be looking at 14.8 as the first target, 16.8 as the second target, and all the way up to 21.8 as the third target. These are all possible targets, not financial advice. These are all major resistances and also gaps in the past that could be filled and revisited. Once again, during short squeezes, fundamentals just completely thrown out the window. Doesn't matter the economic situation. Right now, the focus is just on squeezing the shorts as hard as we can. But you're asking, hey, Mr. P, what are the two big policies that will massively benefit NIO in the future? Guys, that right there was Daily Lab's Aroma Stick car diffuser set. Each box comes in 2, and you actually get an extra set of refills. And boy, oh boy, this thing smells so good. Wow. And one really cool, nice design. It looks really elegant, sleek, fits really well in your air vents, and also it's padded on these sides so it doesn't actually damage your air vents. Oh man, I'm already addicted to this smell. Use my code MRP15 to get 15% off your purchase and also 2 extra gifts. Visit Daily Lab over here or in the link down below. Thank you, Daily Lab, for sponsoring this video. The first one definitely slipped under your radar, and that is, of course, the annual car inspection. They made updates to the rules of annual car inspections to include battery health inspection. Now, I want to preface this by saying that most electric vehicles are exempt from annual inspections for the first 4 years, but after that, every year you got to get your car inspected. And why did they include battery health? Obviously, because there's a lot of new energy vehicles with big batteries catching on fire. Whether that has something to do with the battery itself, or maybe it's a EREV and there's something wrong with the engine or something like that, causing the car to catch on fire. So adding battery health inspection as a mandatory part is absolutely huge. And that means in the future with EVs in general, and all these electric vehicles and NEVs, there's a possibility that they might not pass the battery health inspection. And if that happens, they got no choice but to give up the car or change the battery, swap the battery. Now, of course, with other cars, you can't really swap the battery. You got to go to the manufacturer and who knows how much that's going to cost. But with NIO, if the battery health doesn't really meet the standard, they can just go to a swap station, get it swapped, and come back and do the same check the same day. And this will absolutely benefit people's purchase decisions in the future. As time goes on and a lot of these EVs fail these battery health annual inspections, these EV owners are going to get increasingly pissed off and tell people not to buy that EV. Whereas every time NIO's vehicles are able to pass with flying colors, no problem, people are going to see that, hey, if I want an EV that I can drive for a long time and actually pass the inspection and be able to drive on the road after 4 years, then I gotta go for a NIO. So yes, this will absolutely benefit NIO in the long term. And it will also make EVs safer in the long term because sometimes if an EV catches fire, that fire burns the cars next to them, and it just burns and burns and burns. There's stories of how an EV burned down an entire building, one EV burning down a parking lot of other cars. It's very important that the government made this policy, and this will really help NIO in the long term. Policy number 2 is, of course, taxes. EVs and new energy vehicles in the past have had the benefit of being tax exempt and also had subsidies in the past. When I bought my NIO 3 years ago, it was not only tax exempt, I got like 30,000 RMB in subsidy. That was just massive. But now subsidy is slowly going away and tax exemption is also slowly going away. And by 2025, EVs will have to pay taxes. That might seem very bad for the entire EV industry, and yes, it's not good, but there's one big exemption, and that is, of course, if the battery and the car are separate. And that is, of course, none other than NIO and also Rising Auto, which I think you guys should also keep an eye on. With NIO, you can buy the car, and of course, this is BAS, battery as a rental. So you got 2 separate invoices, and that is the key point. You have to have 2 separate invoices. A lot of other brands, like Xpeng, they try to do something similar to lower the purchase price of the car, try to make the battery separate, but it's actually still one invoice. So that would not qualify for the tax exemption. It has to be 2 separate invoices. So that just means going to the future, all these other EVs and new energy vehicles are going to get more expensive because of the added tax. Whereas NIO, if you buy it with BAS and rent the battery, not only do you massively decrease the purchase price of the car, you're also exempt from taxes. That is absolutely a big deal, guys. And that means in the future, there's a huge incentive to buy a NIO instead of buying anybody else. And to stress the magnitude of this incentive and how important it is, because I think you guys aren't getting how important this is. You got to think about it like what's happening right now with EV subsidies. Before, EVs had subsidies, right? There's that incentive to purchase an EV instead of buying an EREV. So lots of EVs, they had a big boost in deliveries. But right now, 2023, there's no longer that subsidy incentive. So what you're seeing is there's no need for customers to make that extra step between choosing an EREV or a full-on EV. So in 2022, people might be considering a Li Auto, but then they might think, hey, if I go for a NIO or I go for EV, any EV, I get that subsidy. That's, free money basically. So I'll just go the extra step. Now, no more subsidy. People aren't making that extra step, and you're seeing Li Auto's deliveries absolutely surge. And this all comes down to incentives. So do not underestimate the little difference in the taxes that you have to pay, the purchase tax. Having that exemption for NIO is going to be massive. And guys, don't forget, right now we're in a big short squeeze. Fundamentals don't really matter that much. It's just hype, euphoria. How hard can we squeeze the shorts, and the momentum going up. And don't forget to pick up your daily lab scented fragrances. Let's see how high we can go, all right? As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.